Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Madame Ching is a game that's set on my board game shelf for a very, very long time. I have no idea. The artwork is amazing on the box, and many times I picked it up and was like, why don't we play this? And I picked something else. I don't know why, because it's striking, it's something that I should be pulling off, and it has a theme that I actually do enjoy. The designer is world famous when I enjoy a lot of his other games, and the artwork is by one of the most famous board gaming artists. So everything should come together for a game I pull off my shelf, but it didn't. It sat here forever. So I finally pulled it off, and I read the rules, and I felt dread come over to me. It's one of those games that have a gimmick, and perhaps it's a good gimmick. It's one of those games that has a gimmick, but we're going to be doing that gimmick a lot. So that gimmick has to be very good to hold steady water. What we have here is a game where you'll be playing a card simultaneously face down and flipping it over, and then the highest one goes first, and you're kind of getting a line of cards. So far, so good. That line of cards will move your ship. If it's the same color, you can move a straight line. If it's a different color, you're going to move diagonal. So right there, different colors is better. But you have to play the cards in numerical order. So a 5 after 2, because if not, you bust and you grab a mission. Sometimes you'll want to bust on purpose just to go ahead and score a tile, which you find later on in the game that a lot of the big time scoring was taken early, so you almost wanted to not go very far because you wanted to keep busting, and that was a strategy that wasn't as much fun. It was like we progressively got less points as the game went on, and that wasn't very exciting. You have the cards with the icons, the expedition cards. They're not very much fun. We were constantly looking up a player aid. I think would have helped that tremendously. There was no player aid to kind of pass around to the players. That wasn't a lot of fun. Wish that would have been included instead of passing one rule book around over and over and over again every time somebody got a card. It was just kind of distracting, if you will, for what's a simple card game. The gimmick is fine. You're just going to do it 3,000 times in this game. You're going to do it a lot. And then it's not fun anymore. I would like this to be part of a bigger game. With that said, this game could have been in a lot smaller box. It doesn't no reason to be in this big of a box other than to fit the board. But you could have made a smaller board or had an actual fold in the board. So it doesn't really fly with me. It's a small game put into a big box. Kind of know that going in. Otherwise, it's not a terrible game. It's not a bad game. It's just something I felt like should have been part of a bigger game. And maybe it went on too long. It was just same thing over and over again. And the points were less and less for doing it. And that just, it didn't ratchet up the way I wanted to. That could have been our group, just the way we played. But it didn't work out for us. The take that of nature of it didn't really, didn't like people stealing our stuff because the points are so fine in this game that randomly stealing a token from somebody or a gem could be game changing. In addition, there's a card where you can draw 3 cards. I know a lot of people have nerfed this card, but I mean you can just draw cards and get a whole bunch of victory points. It's the most powerful card in the game. If you get that one, you're doing pretty well. So total miss for me. This might work for other people, but did not work for us. Beautiful game. Great length of time to play it, but the arc of the game didn't work for us. What you're doing just got repetitive and boring after a while. Was this something I want to go back to? Purge for me. Madame Ching, you can see his Vincent Dutrat artwork on the front. It's very, very appealing art. You're going to have a rule book, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. Then you're going to get a board. The board is big and doesn't serve a huge purpose in the game. It's more of a spreadsheet with a place to place your cards and whatnot. It is nice. It's beautiful. Not a whole lot of artwork, just some numbers, and you got a little bit of water here. But it's a good, solid board for what it's trying to accomplish. You're going to get some tiles. These will be the scoring tiles that you'll use in the game. The artwork is great. It shows a picture of the components on it, which you don't really need a whole lot, to be honest, which are these gems. So these very beautiful gems, but you don't really need a whole lot of them. And you're going to get your boats, which we thought would take mushrooms at first, but I guess they're boats in different colors. You're going to get cards in the game. The artwork on it, I didn't feel like the icons were all that helpful with it. I would have preferred words, and I normally do prefer words, because we were just looking up what these cards do all the time, especially for such a simple game. The money are cardboard tokens from the time period. They look fine, and they act fine. Better than paper money, I suppose. Box is way bigger than it needs to be. This could have been done in a lot smaller box. The board could have been a lot smaller. This game could be a very tiny game. So here's a rulebook for Madame Ching. It's going to be in it's going to be a little large because it's going to be in a lot of different languages. English will be in the front. You'll see the object of the game and set up with no pictures. And there's no picture of the components either. Game overview was like thrown in down here. And then on the next page, I didn't really like that. details of a turn kind of go out. It was a little confusing at first for such a simple game. I think it's because just the way the structure is, but it's a very simple game. You do have a picture over here with a couple examples. Not sure why this needed 2 examples. Into the game, and then they break down every single card. I would have preferred player aids. I think that would have worked out a lot better. Put this on a player aid and out for the players, because we just had to pass the rule book around. People were looking for cards. It was just very confusing for what is such a simple game. The rule book made it a little tougher than it should have been. You probably need about 5-10 minutes to read through this. Not a lot of time investment. So setup is very easy. What you're going to do in the game is you're going to put a number of tiles out based on the number of players. In a 4-player game, you're putting 14 of these randomly out. These are just cards you'll set out based on the printing on the board for the China Pearl and the Hong Kong. You're going to shuffle up the navigation deck and put these cards out. One is face down, the other 3 are face up, and the counter deck over there. Whatever tiles you don't use, go back in the game box. And each player starts the game with 4 cards in their hand. The game ends in one of 2 ways. Either all of the tiles are awarded, then the game will end, and you'll count up the number of victory points, or when somebody reaches Hong Kong. If that occurs, it doesn't occur in every single game. What players are going to do each turn is they're going to play a card face down, and they will flip it over simultaneously. Whoever has the highest number will go first, and then everybody else will go in the order of the cards. So if these were the 4 cards that were played, 51 would go first, then whoever played the 44, then whoever played the 31, and then whoever played the 23. So it's always in the highest number to the lowest number in order. So let's say I played the 23. I will come up here and start here. And then I will be able to draft a card. I can take the unknown card here or one of these cards depending on whatever my strategy is. Let's say I take this, and then this card would be refilled. Then the next players would go. On the next turn, let's say I was to play this card down. This card is a different color than the card I played before, so then I would move diagonally. If I play a card of the same color on another turn, then I will just move straight ahead. So anytime I play a new color and introduce it to my line here, I will move diagonal. Anytime I add a color that's already been played in my line, I move straight. Now, I will always be playing cards in this row in ascending order. So 23, 31, 32. I could not play a 51 underneath it. That would have been a bust. So you're playing cards in order strategically however you want. Now, if I were to play a card that was smaller, then I would quote-unquote bust and complete my mission. What that means, I would look at whatever number I'm at. So let's say I was over here on 20, then I would look down here at the tiles. There is no 20 tiles, so I'd go backwards. So at 19, I could choose one of the 2 19 tiles. Let's say I want this one because it's worth more points. Then I would get the reward that's on it. In this case, 2 red rubies. You can see right here on the board the points. So the clear ones are worth 4, the rubies are worth 3, the blue are worth 2, and the dollars are worth just 1. So this one right here would be worth 6 points at the end of the game. Where if I had taken this one, these are worth 1 each, that'd be 3, but I would also get to draw 2 encounter cards. I'll come back to those in a minute. So whenever you bust, you will take the tile, take the goodies, discard that, and then you come all the way back. Then I'll discard the cards at the end of my turn, and my old one, but I'm keeping the card I just played. The only little caveat to this is if you are able to match these up. So let's say I had played cards like this, and I have 3 lanterns. And that means I would take one of these lantern cards, I would put it in front of me, it's worth 1 victory point, and the power that's listed on it. Whenever I use it, I just kind of tap it to show that I've used it, and this will allow me to, this one in particular will allow me to use a card out of order. So if I wanted to play a card out of order, I can just slip it into the order anywhere I want. This one right here would allow me to trade with somebody else. I get to look at their hand, and I get to force a trade. This one allows me to add +6. Remember how I had on the 20 spot? Well, if I had this card, I could tap it, and it would give me +6. So 20 would become a 26, and I can get a higher, more valuable mission. This one right here allows me to increase my hand size by 1, immediately drawing a card. Now, the reason why you're collecting these cards, now they have different symbols at the top, but the reason why you're collecting is if you get 1 of each of them, you can take the China Pearl, which is worth 5 points. Now, this one over here, I haven't described yet. This is 1 of each of them. If you have 1 of each of them in your row, you can claim this card, and it will count as 1 of the 4 when you're claiming the China Pearl. So if I had the lanterns, the sword, the kite, and this, I wouldn't need the maps because this would be my wild card for it, and I could claim the China Pearl and get an additional 5 points. Now, these encounter card decks, as set up there, you will gain these throughout the game. There are a couple ways to gain them. Once, I've showed that when you complete certain missions, they will give you encounter cards. Also, there's some dotted lines printed on the board. Anytime your ship is here and it was to cross one of those dotted lines, at this one, you would gain 1 encounter card. And this one over here, if you were to cross it, you would gain 2 encounter cards. So what do these encounter cards do? For the most part, they break the rules of the game. This one allows you to steal an encounter card from somebody. This one allows you to use this in your set collection to get the China Pearl. This one allows you to get 1 extra victory point for these colors. So these kind of break the rules of the game and kind of snatch things up. And some of this can be take that, some of this can just be powers that you have. The last thing in the game is if you get down here to 49 or 56, you can grab the Hong Kong. It will give you 10 points and the game will immediately end. Keep in mind, the only way you can do that is by going diagonal enough where you have to be able to collect all 6 of the colors. It's very hard to do. I've yet to see it happen. We played this 3 or 4 times. I've yet to see it happen, but that's how you would get that. And those are all of the rules to play Madame Ching. Who should buy this game? I have a tough time recommending this game. I would say you're going to want good artwork, you like a gimmick, and you like that gimmick to keep going. If you like a joke that just keeps going on and on and on, this is for you. This is going to work for a lot of people. I think I'm one of the most negative people on the game. There's been a lot of positive reviews on it, so take me with a grain of salt. I think I might be in the minority, but it just did not work for us. Absolute purge. Get this out of here. Beautiful. That's all she had going for her. You can go back to Hong Kong, Madame Ching, because I never made it to Hong Kong as much as I tried in this game. Never could get there. And I quit. I don't want to take over your pirateness. I'm out of the game. Purge.